Hello everyone! Welcome to your nursing pharmacology lectures. For today's discussion, it will be all about anti-diabetic medications. My name is Miss Abby Demesa. I am your nursing pharmacology lecturer. Kapag sinabi nating anti-diabetic medications or drugs, ito ang ginagamit natin to lower blood glucose levels. They work in different ways. Iba-iba ang ginagawa ng mga gamot na binibigay natin sa mga pasyenteng diagnosed with diabetes mellitus. Yung iba sa kanila, they help the body produce more insulin. Yung iba naman, they help the body use insulin better, and some reduced glucose absorption or production. Before we learn the different medications that we will give to patients diagnosed with the disease diabetes mellitus, let us first determine ano ba ang sakit na ito. Kapag sinabi nating diabetes mellitus, ito ay isang klase ng kung tawagin natin metabolic disease na kung saan ang characterization na nakikita natin is more on kung tawagin natin hyperglycemia. Sa Tagalog, kapag sinabi nating hyperglycemia, ito yung mataas na blood sugar sa isang individual. Most commonly, nangyayari ito kasi may tinatawag tayong insulin dysfunction. Ibig sabihin, maaaring may kakulangan sa insulin o kaya naman hindi epektibong nagre-respond ang body sa insulin. Maraming iba't ibang classification ng diabetes. Isa na dito yung kung tawagin natin type 1 diabetes mellitus. Ito ang kondisyon na kung saan halos wala or wala talagang insulin na pinoproduce ang pancreas. Kaya ang nangyayari, kinakailangan na maglagay or magbigay tayo ng insulin coming from the external environment. Type 2 diabetes naman, dito nagkakaroon ng problema sa kung papaano gagamitin ang insulin. Dito sa type 2 diabetes mellitus, mayroong insulin na napoproduce. Nga lang, hindi maayos ang paggamit. Ito yung sitwasyon or kondisyon na kung tawagin na nga natin, may tinatawag na insulin resistance na nararanasan. Kaya tumataas ang blood sugar levels ng mga pasyente. Kapag sinabi mo namang gestational diabetes mellitus, ito naman nangyayari lamang kapag ang pasyente natin or kapag ang isang individual ay nagbubuntis. And yung ibang klase naman ng diabetes mellitus, they are associated with other conditions. Kapag pinag-uusapan natin ang diabetes mellitus, it's always associated with terminologies insulin and glucose. Now, let us define insulin. Ano ba ang insulin? Ang insulin ay isang klase ng hormone. It is being produced by the beta cells na matatagpuan natin in the area of the pancreas known to be islet of Langerhans. Ngayon, ang insulin ang tumutulong to regulate the level of sugar or yung tinatawag naman nating glucose in our blood. Kasi si insulin ang ginagamit ng glucose para makapasok siya sa cell, na kung saan glucose, on the other hand, is another chemical in our body na ginagamit natin as the primary energy source for our cells. Para ang cells natin mag-function, para ang cells natin mag-survive. In diabetes mellitus, the drug therapy focuses on the following. First, kaya tayo maggagamot kasi we need to replace insulin. Second, it will help increase entry of glucose into the cell, wherein, nabanggit nga natin kanina, glucose ang kailangan ng cell para mag-function. Third, increase sensitivity of cells to insulin. And lastly, decrease absorption of glucose in the gastrointestinal tract. Let's start with the group of substances na makakatulong pababain yung mataas na blood sugar level. Ang tawag nga natin ay insulin. So sabi natin, naturally nagpo-produce tayo ng insulin. But kagaya nga sa kaso ng type 1 diabetes na maaaring kulang or halos wala talagang insulin at all ang body, kinakailangan nating magbigay ng insulin sa mga pasyente to manage or to regulate their glucose level. Now, kapag sinabi nating insulin, ito yung pinakamahalagang drug therapy natin for patients under type 1 diabetes mellitus. But nowadays, minsan ginagamit na din ito for those diagnosed with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Now, ano ba ang ginagawa ng insulin? Ang ginagawa ng insulin is tinutulungan nito ang glucose na makapasok sa cell. So kung gagamit tayo ng analogy, si insulin ay parang susi na kung saan ang susi ginagamit natin to unlock doors para makapasok tayo to certain room. So, ganyan ang role ng insulin in our body. Na once mapapasok na ni insulin ang glucose sa cell, napapababa niya ang levels ng blood sugar. Nagbibigay din siya ng energy sa cell at nagagampanan ng cell yung kanyang function to do life processes or para tayo mag-survive. Okay? Now, ang insulin ito ay ibinibigay subcutaneously. The insulin does not cross the placenta and the insulin are destroyed by the digestive enzymes. Ibig sabihin, safe gamitin ang insulin at safe ibigay ito kung ang pasyente mo may diabetes ay buntis or lactating mothers or lactating women. Laging pakatatandaan, pagdating sa gestational diabetes mellitus, ito ang ating drug of choice. So, ibig sabihin, ang insulin ay halos ginagamit across different classifications of diabetes mellitus. May iba't ibang types ng insulin na pwede nating i-consider in our diabetic patients na kung saan when it comes to insulin, intended for a certain diabetic patient, kinoconsider natin yung kanilang onset, peak, and duration. Again, kapag sinabi nating onset, ang pinag-uusapan natin dito is yung bilis ng epekto ng gamot sa body ng pasyente. When we talk about peak, ang pinag-uusapan natin sa peak is yung pinakamataas or pinakamalakas na oras ng gamot habang nasa loob siya ng ating katawan. And when we say duration, it pertains to gaano katagal ang bisa ng gamot inside our body. So, kumbaga, kapag pinatutukuyan natin yung insulin na ibibigay natin sa pasyente para itong sasakyan, na kung saan may sasakyan na mabilis ang takbo, meron ding sasakyan, normal speed lamang ang kaya niyang gawin, o kaya naman may mga sasakyan na pwede mong gamitin sa pangmahabang biyahe kasi kaya niyang tumakbo ng matagalan. So halos ganyan class ang insulin natin. Or yan yung mga insulin na meron tayong nagagamit or pwedeng i-administer sa mga patients natin. Let's start with your rapid-acting insulin. When we say rapid-acting insulin, ito ang mga klase ng insulin natin, yung drug example natin. We call them Lispro, or ito yung tinatawag natin Humalog. You may write this down. Lispro is your Humalog, Humalog, and this is also your Aspart. When you say Aspart, ito naman si Novolog, Novolog. Anong ibig sabihin ng rapid acting? From the term rapid, ibig sabihin, siya yung insulin na pinakamabilis ang epekto. Ibig sabihin, kung masyadong mataas ang sugar level ng pasyente, ang blood sugar level ng pasyente, pwedeng i-consider ng doktor na magbigay ka ng isang rapid-acting insulin. Kasi mabilis siyang epekto sa katawan ni patient. Ano ang effect na inaasahan natin? E di pababain ang blood sugar level. Nagsisimula siya or ang onset ng gamot na 'to, nagsisimula within 15 minutes at ang peak nito umaabot 30 to 60 minutes. Yan yung strongest effect ng ating rapid-acting insulin. Ang duration naman niya tatagal hanggang mula 2 to 4 hours. Kailan ito ginagamit? So, kailan ka magbibigay ng rapid-acting insulin? Ibinibigay ito madalas bago kumain para pababain ang sugar pagkatapos kumain. Ibig sabihin, yung post-meal spike, ipapababa na niya. So, ibig sabihin, kapag rapid-acting insulin ang iisipin ninyo, parang pangmabilisang saklolo ang ginagawa ng gamot natin. It's an instant action to the body. Now, the second group or the second type of insulin, we call it the short-acting insulin. Pag sinabi natin short-acting insulin, ito yung tinatawag natin na mga regular insulin. Ito ang only insulin that can be given intravenous. I will repeat. Your short-acting insulin, drug example mo dito are your regular insulins, which only can be administered intravenously. The onset of your medication will be 30 to 60 minutes and the peak will spike within 2 to 4 hours. Natatagal naman ang epekto ng gamot about 4 to 6 hours. Now, kailan mo siya gagamitin? Kailan mo siya ibibigay? Usually, your short-acting insulin, ibibigay mo siya bago kumain. Mas mabagal kasi siya than the rapid-acting. Madalas, ang short-acting types of insulin natin, ginagamit to dun sa tinatawag nating DKA or yung kung tawagin, diabetic ketoacidosis. O kaya naman, for emergency cases na talagang mataas ang blood sugar level, intravenous, we can administer this type of insulin. So, ibig sabihin naman dito, parang ordinaryong bilis ang takbo natin, pero hindi siya sobrang mabilis, hindi rin naman siya sobrang mabagal. Nga lang, we can give this emergency because this is your only insulin that can be administered intravenous. We also have the third type of insulin, ang tawag natin, intermediate acting insulin. Ito, ang drug example natin is the NPH. NPH stands for neutral protamine hagedorn na kung saan onset of this type of insulin is about 2 to 4 hours as well. The peak it will spike within 6 to 8 hours and the duration will last for about 16 to 20 hours. Now, kailan naman natin to ginagamit? Ginagamit natin ang mga intermediate acting insulin para sa basal, when you say basal, background control ng blood sugar. Karaniwang twice a day ang pagbigay or ang pag-administer natin ng intermediate acting insulin natin. Important concept pagdating sa intermediate type of insulin, cloudy ang NPH natin, cloudy ang kanyang characteristics. So, ibig sabihin nito, kailangan i-roll mo muna bago mo siya i-administer. So, i-roll mo muna yung vial bago mo siya i-administer. So, ngayon naman, kapag sinabing intermediate type of insulin, parang pangmahabang araw na suporta ang gagawin natin. Ibig sabihin, hindi din siya ganun kabilis, hindi din siya ganun kasobrang bagal. So, ang epekto niya, mas nagiging mahaba. And of course, long-acting insulin, ito naman yung mga klase ng insulin natin, kung tawagin, Glargine, ito si Lantus, and then Detemir, ito naman si Levemir, na kung saan ang onset nito is within 1 hour, walang peak ang gamot na to kasi ang long-acting insulin type natin is sustained steady release, and ang duration niya tumatagal up to 24 hours. Now, kailan mo siya ginagamit? Usually, this type of insulin, ginagamit siya once daily. Once daily. So, para mag-steady siya, steady control ng blood sugar level all throughout the day. Nga lang, class, importante, hindi pwedeng i-mix sa ibang insulin ang ating long-acting type of insulin. So, basically, class, siya lang ang ibibigay kapag sinabi ng doktor na naka-long-acting si patient, long-acting lamang yung pwede mong ibigay sa pasyente natin. So, para siyang 24 hours guardian ng ating patients na kung saan steady, walang biglang bagsak or walang biglang taas ng sugar level. Now, pinakamadaling tandaan para maalala ninyo yung apat na iba't ibang klase ng insulin natin. Again, for rapid, ibig sabihin nito, in 15 minutes, we're driving. Mabilis agad ang nagiging epekto. 15 minutes. Now, pag sinabing regular, R is routine, regular speed. About 30 to 60 minutes ang onset. NPH, N is for no need to rush, slow onset. Ibig sabihin yan, iyan naman ang intermediate type of insulin natin. And Lantus, L for Lantus, L for long, and it lasts, another L, lasts all day. Ayan. So, I hope that helps you remember your 4 different types of insulin. Insulin are substances that enters the body, kaya meron din tayong observed or reported adverse effects. At isa nga sa pinakamahalagang adverse effects or yung hindi mo dapat inaasahang mangyari sa pasyente mo receiving insulin is what we call hypoglycemia. When we say hypoglycemia, hypo means mababa or below, ibig sabihin, ang nararanasan ng pasyente is yung sobrang baba or yung sobrang bagsak na blood sugar level. Meron din tayong binabantayan na adverse effect kung tawagin natin lipodystrophy. Ang ibig sabihin nito, pagkakapantay ng taba sa injection sites. And at the same time, isa pa sa adverse effects ng insulin natin is yung pagbagsak ng potassium in the body. Kaya also watch out for the signs and symptoms related to hypokalemia. Napaka-importante ng role ng nurses when it comes to the administration of insulin. Isa nga sa lagi nating sinasabi or itinuturo sa ating mga pasyente who are advised to administer insulin is to rotate the injection sites. Bakit natin to ginagawa? The rationale behind is to prevent the lipodystrophy. We have to monitor the blood sugar regularly. Kaya importante din na alam ng patients natin how to use the glucometer. Monitor the vital signs. Tachycardia can occur during insulin reaction. Isa pa sa importante is the continuous checking of the HbA1c. When you say HbA1c, this is the glycosylated hemoglobin test na ginagawa to periodically. And always provide health teaching in our patients, especially in noticing signs and symptoms of hyperglycemia and hypoglycemia. Apart from the administration of insulin, diabetic patients also benefit from taking what we call oral anti-hyperglycemic drugs or agents. Nga lang, itong grupo ng oral medications na ito, ang mas nakikinabang ay yung mga pasyenteng nadadiagnosed with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Ang mga gamot na ito ay ginagamit kapag may insulin pa ang patient. So, ibig sabihin, oo, may insulin sila, nga lang hindi nagiging effective yung work ng insulin inside the body. Kaya may pagtaas pa din sa blood sugar level. Hindi siya nagagamit ng maayos. Iba-iba din ang paraan ng bawat classification ng gamot under oral anti-hyperglycemic classifications, pero ang layunin nila ay iisa lang, which is pababain ang blood sugar level. Now, we have different types of your oral anti-hyperglycemic drugs. Isa na nga dito is yung tinatawag nating sulfonylureas. When you say sulfonylureas, these are your medications, first generation ng oral anti-hyperglycemic drugs natin ito, and they are less potent than those second generation drugs. Nga lang, itong mga sulfonylureas natin, they both potentiate insulin action, and isang adverse effect na importante talaga nating binabantayan is yung biglang pagbagsak ng blood sugar levels. So watch out for any signs and symptoms of your hypoglycemia. Now, other group of oral anti-hyperglycemic drugs natin is what we call your non-sulfonylureas. Ito na yung mas madalas na natin ginagamit or mas madalas iniinom ng mga pasyenteng nadadiagnosed with diabetes. They act more on decreasing levels of glucose through two mechanisms. Yung una, decreased on production. Pangalawa, inhibiting its absorption. Main action of your non-sulfonylureas is within the gastrointestinal tract. Kaya expect adverse effects related to your digestive system. That's the difference of the two. Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin yung mga iba't ibang classifications ng oral hypoglycemic drugs. Unahin na natin is yung tinatawag na sulfonylureas. Kapag sinabi nating sulfonylureas, ang mga gamot na kabilang under this classification will be glipizide, glyburide, and glimepiride. Glimepiride ang isa sa mas madalas nating nadidinig na gamot ng diabetic patients. Ngayon, the therapeutic action of your sulfonylureas is to increase insulin secretion. Ibig sabihin, ang gamot natin, the target part of our body will be the pancreas para si pancreas matrigger na mag-produce ng madami pang insulin. Ngayon, kapag marami na tayong insulin sa katawan, ang gagawin niya, ipapasok or itutulak na niya papasok sa cell ang glucose para magamit. Kaya, mas malaki yung nagiging chance ng hypoglycemia in those patients na umiinom ng sulfonylureas. Kasi nga, ang nangyayari, pinupukpok si pancreas na mag-produce ng insulin. Wherein, kung marami kang insulin, mas marami ka ngayong ipupush na glucose to the cell, kaya bababa or maaaring mag-below normal level naman yung quantity ng glucose in our blood. Napaka-importante na nursing consideration pagdating sa pagpapainom ng sulfonylureas is yung alam natin kung kailan siya i-advise sa patients na inumin. For sulfonylureas, it is highly advisable to give these medications before meals. Ibig sabihin, bago pa pumasok ang pagkain sa loob ng katawan ng ating mga pasyente, na i-prepare na or na ihahanda na ang insulin levels in our body. Kaya, isa pa sa importanteng nursing considerations natin is yung bantayan or turuan natin yung mga patients natin, ano ba yung mga signs and symptoms kapag sinabi nating hypoglycemia or hypoglycemic na ang patients natin. Ibig sabihin, what are those signs and symptoms na kapag iyon ang naramdaman nila, then definitely they have to increase their glucose level, kailangan nilang kumain or kailangan nilang mag-take ng substance na magpapataas ng kanilang glucose. So, when it comes to hypoglycemia, tatandaan, we can advise our patients na they might experience signs and symptoms kagaya ng bigla ang pagkagutom, na panginginig, yung iba may reported na dizziness or pagkahilo, o kaya naman excessive sweat or yung pagpapawis. Next classification, we have what we call thiazolidinediones. Now, your thiazolidinediones, these classification, ang ginagawa naman nila is pinapataas ang pagiging sensitibo ng ating cells sa insulin. Ibig sabihin, ang target naman ng ating gamot is the cell itself, na kung saan yung cells enhance niya yung sensitivity nito sa insulin para mas madali kay insulin na magpababa ng sugar. Ibig sabihin, mas madali para kay insulin na papasukin yung glucose sa cell at ibigay yung glucose kay cell. Drug examples under the classification of thiazolidinediones will be your pioglitazone, and we also have your rosiglitazone. I will repeat. Drug examples under the classification of thiazolidinediones, we have your pioglitazone and rosiglitazone. There is an important black box warning: increased risk for heart failure and cardiac death ang pwedeng ibigay or ang pwedeng maging result ng gamot under this classification. So basically, sa mas madaling explanation, mas ginagawang receptive yung cell kay insulin para mas magamit natin siya. Nga lang, may panganib ang gamot na ito sa puso ng ating diabetic patients. The next classification will be your biguanides. Your biguanides, ito sikat na oral hypoglycemic drug. That's your metformin. This is the most common, the first line of drug pagdating sa type 2 diabetes. Now, ang ginagawa ng biguanides or ang ginagawa ni metformin, pinipigilan si liver na gumawa ng sobrang glucose. Ibig sabihin, tumutulong din si biguanides or si metformin na pataasin yung insulin sensitivity. Hindi ito nagkukos ng immediate hypoglycemia or hindi ito nagli-lead to hypoglycemia. Pero pagdating sa adverse effects, expect that it is related to gastrointestinal. Kaya it is related to diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, kasi nga ang metformin natin, ang kanyang isa sa mga adverse effects is gastrointestinal upset. Isa pang adverse effects, though it's rare, pero fatal, ang tawag natin is lactic acidosis. So when it comes to metformin or biguanides, isa sa iisipin natin is the lactic acidosis. It's rare, but it is fatal. Now, when it comes to nursing considerations, napaka-importante that we hold the medication 48 hours if your diabetic patient will require CT scan with contrast. Kasi kailangan nating iwasan, the rationale behind is iwasan yung risk ng lactic acidosis. So again, ang target ni metformin is our liver. Kasi ang ginagawa ni metformin, it decreases hepatic glucose production. And at the same time, it helps increase insulin sensitivity. Next, we also have what we call meglitinides. Meglitinides naman, these are the medications that stimulate beta cells to release insulin. So, ibig sabihin, ang meglitinides natin, the target part of our body is the pancreas, specifically the beta cells, para mag-release ng insulin. It's fast and short insulin release, para itong mini version ng sulfonylureas natin kasi insulin din yung kanyang target. Ibinibigay ito bago kumain para post-meal sugar control ang purpose natin. And again, warning naman for the administration of your meglitinide is your hepatotoxicity. So a severe liver damage may happen to our patients. Drug examples under this category will be your repaglinide and your nateglinide. Repaglinide and nateglinide. So, ibig sabihin, if we will remember your meglitinides, mabilis pero panandalian ang pagtaas ng insulin. Ginagamit ito para dun sa mga pasyente na kakain na agad. So, this help regulate or control their post-meal sugar. And we also have your alpha glucosidase inhibitors. These are your acarbose and miglytol na kung saan these are your group of medications na pinapabagal ang pagsipsip ng carbohydrates sa ating bituka. So again, for your alpha glucosidase inhibitors, the target part of our body will be the small intestine kasi kailangan i-decrease yung absorption ng glucose. So dahil dito, hindi agad-agad tataas ang blood sugar levels ng patients natin pagkatapos kumain. Now, since the affected part will be the small intestines, part of your gastrointestinal tract, expect that adverse effects will be related to the function of our digestive system, to the function of our gastrointestinal tract. So there may be severe gastrointestinal gas, diarrhea, stomach cramps. So, again, for your alpha glucosidase inhibitor, pinapabagal or sinuslow motion ang pagkain sa bituka. And we also have our DDP4 inhibitors. Ito na sina linagliptin, sitagliptin, na kung saan ito rin yung isa sa mga common na nadidinig natin na gamot para pababain ang blood sugar level ng ating mga patients with diabetes. Ang ginagawa ni linagliptin, sitagliptin, pinapataas yung hormone kung tawagin natin, incretin, na kung saan mas maraming insulin ang nagiging present in our body and mas mababa naman si glucagon. Na kung saan si glucagon, kung mababa siya, mababa ang glucose production natin. Now, bakit ito importante? Kasi mas importante ang mga DDP4 inhibitors natin because of the low risk ng hypoglycemia. So, please write it down. Why DDP4 inhibitors are important, and that includes linagliptin and sitagliptin, but mas sila na yung ginagamit with some of the diabetic patients kasi low risk ang hypoglycemia, and when it comes to geriatric patient, very safe yung mga DDP4 inhibitors natin. And of course, there are important nursing considerations na dapat sinasabi or itinuturo natin in our patients. Administer your non-sulfonylureas with food to minimize the gastrointestinal effects. Your sulfonylureas are taken before meals. Always monitor the blood glucose level, monitor HbA1c to determine yung periodic glucose control, and always provide health teaching tungkol sa gamot, dosage, mga therapeutic action, mga binabantayang adverse effects, para mas madagdagan pa yung kaalaman nila patungkol sa sakit na diabetes, paano nila i-manage, at na kung saan makakabawas ito with their anxiety and mas makakapag-promote pa ng good compliance among our patients. Pero just to remind you, to sum up all those medication, oral hypoglycemic drugs natin, uulitin ko, you may write this down, kapag pinag-uusapan ang sulfonylureas, pinapainom bago kumain. Ginagawa ng sulfonylureas, pinupush si pancreas to release insulin. Meglitinides, ginagamit ito fast, short insulin burst. Yan yung pwedeng mangyari. Metformin, liver ang target ng gamot, liver. So pinipigilan ang atay to produce glucose. Mas nagiging effective yung secretion ng insulin natin. TZD or yung ating thiazolidones, ito naman mas nagiging sensitive si cell kay insulin, nga lang warning when it comes to adverse effects affecting the heart. And then, pagdating naman kay acarbose natin, small intestine ang target nila. And last but not the least, your DDP4 inhibitors. Ito naman, hinahabaan ang hormones na nagpapababa ng sugar. Very safe, lalo na when it comes to geriatric patients. And that's the end of our lecture pertaining to anti-diabetic medications. I hope you learned something from this simple but direct to the point discussion pagdating sa mga gamot na gagamitin natin for our diabetic patients. Reference used for this discussion is Focus on Nursing Pharmacology 9th edition by Rebecca Tucker. Should you have any questions, you may send it in my email address, ecdemesa@fatima.edu.ph. Thank you.